I don't think after the start of this week, anyone is calm. We have war at two fronts, oil markets going crazy, and crypto legislation under debate. In this video, we'll show you if the Strait of Hormuz stays unstable, the rate cuts narrative can vanish fast, and stocks, crypto, will feel it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategic Markets, the channel where we try to give you fundamental and technical analysis all at once. Into our midweek session, today we are starting off with the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you're like me and you didn't even know what was a week ago, well, we'll tell you in a small bit of time what this particular place is. It's basically like a canal. You might have heard of Panama Canal. It's just a canal where imports and exports pass through, relatively where Iran has a connection to it. Now, you'd be surprised. Why is this being discussed so much recently? Well, a lot of export goes through this particular canal. And you can see over here, China, India, the rest of Asia, in high percentages are reliant on any import and export that goes through for oil, for gas. That's why you're probably seeing countries like China and India are not very much supporting Iran in this particular war because in any case, the exports are being stopped and these countries are being affected by it. That's one aspect. Another aspect, hopefully, which is going to benefit and make things a bit easier, is that Trump has ordered to protect energy trade from the Strait of Hormuz, which basically means that he's willing and wanting to give the maritime slash the Navy to be able to assist from the United States perspective to let any particular ship go through with the security of the United States so that this particular energy trade continues. That's good news. But what does that do for the price of oil? Oil currently is looking really strong in its breakout. It's broken out of prior resistance. It's broken to the 200 weekly SMA, which is really good strength. Now, personally speaking, I don't like to trade any long trades in any instances where a particular market is overheated. And right now, I don't really see any signs of shorting as well. So it's just a bit of a momentum. Either I wait for a pullback or either I look for a divergence. But for now, it's just strength. It's a move that I missed out on, something for you to know yourself as well. What does that mean for the particular American markets? Well, one thing that we all look forward to is the rate cut FOMC meeting. Now, that's in about 2 weeks' time. Right now, 97% chance no rate cut occurs, and we stay at about 3.5 to 3.75. That's not really good for American mortgage owners, but at the end of the day, if they're seeing any risk until and unless this particular war seems to cool off, we can't really comment on what happens with the rates in America. What does that mean for the precious metals we look at, gold and silver? Well, gold is actually again sitting all-time highs consistent, not all-time highs very recently though, that was back a couple of weeks ago, but it is really hitting that high categories, or especially in the local highs. Now personally, like I said, if anything is overheated and moving consistently, it's not my area to take a trade on, but very relatively so. If I then have a look at the silver chart, I can see that a local high was over here. Right now, particularly this week, with relevance to news, it's going a bit of down. So the RSI, the MACD as well, it's currently showing a possible bearish crossover. If that confirms, I probably definitely would want to have a long trade on that. But see where you guys at. I'm seeing a little bit of declining strength in these particular precious metals, just from my opinion. When we talk about these news events and we talk about finance, I think it is important to take into consideration what is actually happening. Now, some of these moments, we see them and we review them, and it's not easy to see these. Like we sit at the comfort of our homes, and I'm really appreciative of it. But yep, these moments happen, guys, and they influence markets. Our job is to stay as unemotional and make the best decisions for us and give you the guidance. But yeah, it is good to sometimes just put an image to see what is swaying the markets and how they're being swayed. I think one other thing is an important aspect that we really pay attention to in this particular channel is we said in our last video, we're going to look to crypto to confirm a particular move. What is crypto doing right now? Well, as of 2 hours ago, we had a massive move. Well, not a massive, but a relatively big move in Bitcoin. Bitcoin did this bullish engulfing candle on the weekly, basically taking out 3 weeks worth of downwards trend. Now, if this candle holds by the end of the week, this is a reasonably healthy signal for Bitcoin. My thoughts on this, well, Bitcoin's future price, the futures market currently has a CME gap at about 80K. All right. So if we do have a bullish engulfing candle on the weekly, we could have hopes to want to clean this up soon and possibly a move up to here. That's something that I'll be looking at, maybe something for you to look into too, but it's an opportunity at the end of the day, not financial advice. Another interesting thing is, and some of the reasons why this market could be feeling a little bit more opportunistic is because Trump is actually pushing for the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act would basically give clarity of tokens as to where they sit as securities or commodities in the market. Okay. And basically, Trump is saying that currently the big banks have been making record profits of people's investments and funds that they hold in banks. And basically, the introduction of stable coins being in the Clarity Act is currently in discussion with the banks and crypto companies. And banks are not nudging, but at the end of the day, a lot of this legislation was passed in the Genius Act last year. So considering the banks are not playing ball, Trump is saying that they need to get their act together because at the end of the day, the Genius Act was set for this particular reason. And now moving to Clarity, we need this particularly to stay ahead of other countries. And at the same time, they should not be holding these particular things hostage. We need to make a good deal on this. It's better for the interest of the American people to be, if they want to use stable coins, to be able to earn yield off of it, which banks with their record profits do not want to give those yields away. Crypto and DeFi has the capability of doing that. And at the end of the day, this cannot be taken away from the people of America. So if this fight does get pushed through, I was actually looking at some Polymarket odds as well. Polymarket being basically people betting on the crypto networks as to whether this is going to get approved in 2026 or not. This jumped up all the way to 75% people believing that this will get pushed through by this year. So that optimism really continues. It could look good for crypto markets and possibly one of the reasons why it's moving today. Another interesting news that I personally was like baffled by is Ethereum, the second biggest crypto. This particular month of Feb had about 31.6 million ETH leaving major exchanges, which means people have taken this out of the market and are custodying it possibly for future holding, which is really good when you think about supply and demand characteristics. And another thing is, if you don't understand 31.6 million, the total Ethereum is 120 million. Basically a quarter of a $249 billion or $249 billion asset. A quarter of it was taken off exchanges within 1 month. That's a lot of supply being pulled away, which leads me to believe clearly someone or some entities know something that we don't, and they are taking a bet on it for the future term. So if this market possibly turns violently, because to me, what's very interesting is a war had broken out 2 days ago. And instead of Bitcoin going down to 51K or 40K, which every bear is dwelling on, we are seeing sign of strength. And honestly, if you had asked me 4 years ago, I would have been surprised and sitting here with you guys and like, what? Now that I know that the powers that have it be have their own agendas, I can see something possibly brewing up over here. And someone has decided to show some interest in the markets. Ethereum's data is showing that it's been pulled out in Feb, one of its most bearish months, a quarter of it. This could be really interesting. Lastly, the metric that we look at, Ethereum against Bitcoin, this is one of our favorite in our channel. This has recently been having a bit of a strength or I would just say a trailing sideways, to be honest, but it's at least not going down. And on the MACD, until it confirms a bullish crossover, I can't really say it's well off for Ethereum to show again strength against Bitcoin. And when Ethereum does do show strength, it's actually good for the altcoins as well. But we need to wait for that confirmation. And if I see the markets move different in March or preferably in April as well, then in that case, this would be a good signal to tell us that there is strength coming back into the market. That's all the news and fundamental events today. We'll pass it over to Steve for that technical analytics.
Okay. Before we go there, can you bring that chart back up again in terms of Ethereum
Sure.
under Bitcoin? Because my personal interpretation in relation to that chart is that the further that's going down, because we still have this little bit of a downswing going on since what is that mid-July there. You've got
Hmm.
that down action going on there.
Hmm.
As that's going further and further down, that's to me coming to basically show that Ethereum's strength is declining, whilst Bitcoin strength is increasing. Am I
You're 100%
misinterpreting that, or
correct.
yeah, okay.
Between those two assets, Bitcoin showing strength
Hmm.
is basically generally two things. Either Bitcoin is having the best move of its life
Hmm.
and it's just going way faster than the rest of the crypto markets,
Mm.
or Bitcoin is generally losing value, in which Ethereum is losing value faster than it.
Mm.
And it's basically a correlation of strength in the crypto assets. And generally, if Ethereum is showing strength against Bitcoin,
Hmm.
that means it's good for altcoins, which generally means that there's more risk on appetite in the market. And people like us can have really good fun times if we are well spread out in the crypto area, which disclaimer, I am. I believe this is a forward thinking asset, but that's just my perspective on it. Do leave a comment if any of you are crypto investors and you are also waiting for the next altcoin rally. A lot of people have lost faith, but I'm still here.
And that makes a lot of sense as well too, because this particular ratio of Ethereum over Bitcoin was quite strong towards the end of last year. And
Mm,
when Ethereum was really starting to be the major driver
yeah,
compared to Bitcoin. We had that big hump that really occurred there as well. And then all of a sudden everything started to roll over again as well, especially
correct.
when Bitcoin reached 125 and then
Because when Ethereum showed strength over here, I think Ethereum actually went to about
mm,
4,800 or 900 at about August of 2025, if you pull that up
yep.
on the weekly chart. So
Mhm,
you can see August of 2025,
mhm,
Ethereum hits 4,900.
yep.
So, and at this time, Bitcoin was most likely possibly moving sideways or not as strong
Mhm,
as how fast Ethereum was moving.
absolutely.
So this particular chart is just good because at this particular time, if we look at the total three as well, uh, the total three, which is a good relevance to the altcoin market cap. Just a couple, because that happened in when? Uh, August that
Yeah, they're
it
all
moved up.
oh, yep.
August,
Mhm,
just a couple weeks after that, in September, altcoins made its high. So
mhm.
generally, when Ethereum shows strength, altcoins lag a little bit, but then they show strength as well. And you can see it hit prior resistance in this particular area and then trailed back downwards. So when Ethereum shows strength, altcoins generally lag afterwards, but they show their strength. And that's why I believe Ethereum is the best indicator for a risk on move.
Excellent. All right. Well, that clarifies things in my mind as well. I hope it clarifies things with the audience's mind as well too. Brilliant. Thanks for that, Yash.
No
Okay.
problem.
Let's now switch gears, and we'll start sharing this particular chart over here as well. You were talking about Brent crude oil before as well in terms of the overall major catalyst of what's going on with a whole range of things at the present time. So let's start with that. Now, this is a really, really fascinating chart, as I always like to say. Many people like to mention that I comment on that quite often, but a lot of the charts in particular in recent times have really been going on that way.
Mhm.
This particular week is no different. We were basically talking on the weekend at this point over here, and that was where we were basically sitting. It was around about 73 in terms of Brent crude at that point in time,
Mm,
and hadn't broken out. It was right beneath that diagonal line that you actually were showing us before that breakout. And then look what basically happened right there on Monday. broke out, but interestingly enough, it actually retraced a little as well. These green lines up above were actually previous volume profile areas, and I put them in there so you could really see where potential resistance areas could be. Broke through a few of those in terms of volume profile areas there, but these volume profile areas up here on the chart are actually from 2023, so from actually quite a while ago. And it looks as though, as you can really see, if I enlarge that, we've actually got some tails and wicks
Mm,
forming on the daily chart, actually really trying to actually attempt to break through some of those volume profile areas and really struggling to get through them at this point in time. Now,
agreed.
what's really of most interest, though, if you really take a look at it, is we're actually trading quite a fair distance away from the short-term moving averages as well.
Hmm.
But perhaps we're actually a little bit overextended as we're currently speaking. So I'm going to leave this label on here in terms of an overextension on the 4th of March, and we can come and revisit that again at the end of the week and see whether or not we're getting any retracements towards the end of this week, coming back towards those short-term moving averages. I suspect we might. There may be a little bit of a cool-off occurring, and we may actually come back down and test this area here before perhaps bouncing back upwards to retest this area up here afterwards. These may be a little bit strong in terms of some resistance areas to come through. Alternatively, the thesis might go whoop completely off the charts, and it might just shoot right through there and use these as some support and then bounce off from that as well too. So it's
Hmm.
always a matter of watching to see what the market does and basically seeing whether or not some of these theses actually hold as well. So that's Brent crude. Interestingly enough, we've also got the DXY. We were talking at the end of last week that it was actually just bouncing its head off that 50-day moving average. Really fascinating overall there. It's actually now just broken right through that 50-day moving average, as well as these overhead 100-day moving average, 150-day moving average, and the 200. Okay, we
Mm,
got some strength.
wow.
If you recall on the weekend video, we were basically saying there's so much talk at this point in time in the media and everywhere else. Oh, the dollar's weakening, the dollar's going weak, and everything like that. We were saying right here, check that video out if you want to. We were saying here, ignore what the media is saying. The charts are basically suggesting that the weakness is not there. Here you go.
Yeah.
The charts have said it once again. We need to listen to what the charts are telling us in relation to what's actually really happening. The breakout was potential, the breakout occurred. Watch and observe what the charts are trying to tell you in terms of the story. Another point proven. So this is the DXY. Now, in terms of DXY, what's actually happening up here now is we're now currently testing a prior resistance area. That's what's going on there. And you can see it very, very clearly where I've just labeled it right there. We're testing that area, seeing whether or not we can get past this zone, and whether or not it does, we'll notice that in the future as well. Bonds, what's going on there? You noticed back in the weekend as well. We were talking,
Hmm.
or actually, no, not on the weekend, in the week prior, in terms of the midweek of last week, I should say. We actually had been starting to break out, and overall, we were thinking, okay, this could be an overextension of the move there as well. Sooner or later, it may actually be a little bit too far. It's basically come back again, coming back to short-term moving averages. These kind of things happen all the time. So overall, we've got that coming down in terms of bond prices coming down, which corresponds to, well, in terms of TNX, that actually shows us yield starting to rise again as well. But notice where what the yields are doing now. They're potentially bouncing off the 100-day moving average. So all of these things interplay in one way or another. It's all quite fascinating. All the dynamics work alongside each other. But
Hmm.
what does that mean in terms of, say, stocks, indices, all of those kind of things? Well, in terms of things there, we always know that relates to the Russell in particular. They're the most susceptible in relation to interest rate rises. So overall, yields are potentially going up, could make an effect in terms of the Russell sensitive stocks in relation to all of those kind of things there. So that's putting a bit of pressure on those. But then again, all of the indices are under a little bit of stress and under a little bit of pressure. We mentioned that over the weekend as well. Why? These short-term moving averages are declining, essentially. And they're basically testing all of those kind of things there. And that's been happening since Friday. Every single index closed below the short-term moving average. We mentioned that on Friday. Everything was under stress. And they're also testing these 50-day moving averages or the long-term moving averages there. The Russell, it broke it. It broke that first long-term moving average. The Dow, what did it do? Broke its long-term moving average as well. We mentioned that on Sunday. It's now testing the 100-day moving average. Staying above it for now, we'll see whether it does continue or not. Let's go back up to the SPY. What's happening there? The SPY broke its 100-day moving average as well. Now testing the 150. The Qs, what had happened there? Broke its 150. Now potentially testing the 200. See how all of these interplay?
Yeah.
Really fascinating stuff, isn't it? So
100%.
All of the stuff is really going on there. How's our flight to safety going? Okay, let's check out gold. You mentioned this in terms of gold and silver. Now, that one we also mentioned on the weekend as well in relation to perhaps this is actually a little bit overextended. Well, actually, on Monday, it extended a little bit more. Right? It extended a little bit more, but it formed a big red candle at the top there. So it opened up higher and then closed lower, giving people a little bit of a warning as it was testing prior resistance.
Exactly.
Aha, okay. So it tested a prior resistance area up there, gave everyone a bit of a warning and a bit of a scare. Whether people took notice, who knows? What happened the next day? Okay, come back down to short-term moving averages. And then everyone's wondering, oh my gosh, everyone's selling out on all the gold stocks. There we go.
Exactly.
That's the kind of thing that happens. Now it's testing the short-term moving averages again as it reverts to the mean, so to speak. Those kind of discussions there. But it's still well above its VWAP. That's one thing to look at there. The gold ETF doing the same. Silver though, okay. Well, it's following its cousin gold, but this has retraced now beneath that VWAP again. So remember how over the last few weeks we've been discussing the difference between gold and silver in terms of relative strength and everything? Silver was looking good on the weekend, right? We were back here, cut across the VWAP and was looking reasonably strong. That relative strength that silver had compared to the markets and all of those kind of things there, that's gone now.
Correct.
So gold is now has the relative strength more than silver. So that's fascinating once again. Now, we've been so caught up with all the equity markets, the metals, the dollar, all of those kind of things there in the bonds. What have we forgotten?
Crypto.
Yes, we have. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We've forgotten about that, mate. I know it's your favorite, but we've forgotten all about crypto. Now, this has probably got to be one of the most exciting moves that you've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah. Amen.
I felt you'd love this one.
Amen.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, you're probably, I know you asked me this question before we started. What's happened with it? Why has it moved? What's going on? There's been no news. You're right. But I can give you a technical explanation. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? You have any idea? It's actually showing.
Is it the change in an MA crossover? EMA 15 to 8.
You got it. Exactly it. So if we take a look at that, you can simply see it in terms of looking at those figures, right? Prior to today, the EMA 8 was below the EMA 15. Today, it's crossed above it.
Correct.
And we were talking about, just before, the Ethereum over Bitcoin ratio. That's weakening.
Correct.
Indicating that Bitcoin is stronger than Ethereum rather than Ethereum stronger than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the one in charge at this point in time.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin itself, we can actually see it very, very physically in terms of the Bitcoin chart in itself. the fact that we've got an indicator itself actually showing us that the moving average crossover is one potential indicator that traders are going to be using. And look what's basically happened right there. That could be one explanation and a trigger that traders have actually taken on board and said, love this. On top of that as well, look what's also being tested. The prior support resistance line from May 2024. 69,289. As soon as it broke through that, which happened when? 2 hours ago. You said it yourself, mate. 2 hours ago. And as soon as that happened, that was basically it. Okay, it doesn't look really fantastic in terms of the volume there because it's a daily chart, but 6,500 Bitcoins have already been traded today, and there's still 12 hours to go in the day. So we've already got more than half the volume from yesterday.
Agreed.
Not bad. Okay, so that's the kind of thing to look at in the grand scheme of things, and we're already well above that prior support resistance line. So even if it retraces back a little and comes back and tests that, we've still got a reasonable amount of leeway. So that's Bitcoin. Ethereum hasn't broken through that magical 2100 yet, and neither has EMA 8 crossed over the 15. You can see that on the side here. These figures here, the yellow and the cyan. It hasn't crossed over the numbers yet. But should that cross over, then Ethereum is going to give some extra support to Bitcoin in relation to all of that as well.
Correct.
So, something else there as well too. Solana, another crossover. There you go. Okay, another crossover and another one that's actually started to take off as well.
Possibly all cryptos moving together at once.
Yeah, some more support. A bit like that Dow theory we keep on going on about as well too. When you've got Dow Jones going up, Russell going up, S&P going up, Nasdaq going up, that kind of thing too. So Solana going up and Uniswap also. We were talking about both Solana and Uniswap over the weekend as well. Now, interestingly enough, with Uniswap, that's actually hitting its head on the 50-day moving average. And you can see that very clearly on the chart there as well.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we've got all of these things moving around. I'll stop sharing there as well because that's literally all of the chart aspects going on. So interestingly enough, we've got all of these aspects going on, which is really, really cool. And we've got many, many different instruments moving around and presenting opportunities and levels, which is absolutely fantastic to work with as traders and also as investors. So we've got Bitcoin and Ethereum attempting to break out alongside the altcoins now. So plenty of action going on in the crypto market. We've already got about 5-6% moves happening in that just today. The DXY currently breaking out as well. So watch out for tests of prior resistance there and now support. Oil testing previous volume profile areas, potentially overextended, so be a little bit careful there as well. Gold expressing relative strength compared to silver once again. So all of these things all interplaying. Indices still stuck between long-term and short-term moving averages, but interestingly enough, forming lower highs and lower lows. So overall, continue to observe those support levels, have a look at all those instruments, and adjust accordingly, especially amongst those indices, and observe for any of those relative weaknesses amongst those indices in the relevant sectors that are going on along there. So there's lots and lots going on in terms of maneuvering around things and having a look in terms of seeing where your plan is settling and working around with that. And with that, mate, I'm going to hand it back over to you. I think I've run out of breath. There's a lot to talk
about. It was an intense. I think this week is definitely very exciting with the lack of obviously the geopolitical events that we're having. So I'm interested to see whether it's a smoke screen to hide any movements that actually occur behind the geopolitical issues that we have. But at the end of the day, look, oil is the message that's showing that it's going to happen, is happening the move right now. But on the other hand, we have crypto giving us a signal that it's starting to make a move as well. On the weekly, making a bullish engulfing candle. If it holds, it actually shows some carry through. So if geopolitical things cool off, if the rates possibly have a heading downwards, and obviously Kevin Walsh comes in as of May as well, and crypto continues to confirm the signal, we could be setting ourselves for a good couple of months, but all of these have to play out in a certain way for that to go ahead. As always, we're Strategic Markets trying to give you fundamental and technical uh, theories of what we think. If you liked what we did today, please give us a like, subscribe, or leave us a comment as to what you think we can do better or something that you love that we do right now. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you for the next one.
Absolutely. See you soon.
See you.
All right, we'll stop recording there.